Are you looking for a meaningful gift this holiday season? Enough As I Grow is a 365-day guided journal designed to help anyone on a journey of self-discovery. With thoughtful daily prompts, it gently guides you through reflection, clarity, and personal growth one day at a time. Whether you're working through old patterns, wanting to understand your relationships better, or just craving a deeper connection to yourself, this journal is a beautiful companion for the year ahead. It's the perfect stocking stuffer or gift for someone who's ready to grow, heal, and show up more fully in their life. Or for yourself if you're ready to turn the page on a new chapter. And it comes in a variety of beautiful cover designs on Amazon, so you can pick the one that best suits your style. I'll drop the link in the show notes. Go take a look and consider gifting one to someone that you love or to yourself. And now let's get to today's episode. Today's episode dives deep into what it really means to reconnect with yourself, the parts that you've ignored, silenced, or abandoned while taking care of everyone else. My guest, Jonathan McLean, brings such a grounded yet spiritual approach to healing that I think you're really going to feel seen in this one. We talk about inner child work, human design, and small but powerful mindset shifts that can change the way that you move through life. So if you've been feeling disconnected, overextended, or just ready for something deeper, this conversation is for you. Welcome to the Codependent Doctor, a podcast where we unpack the messy, beautiful journey of healing from codependency. If you're burned out from people-pleasing, stuck in unhealthy patterns, or just tired of putting yourself last, you're in the right place. I'm Dr. Angela Downey, a family doctor and fellow codependent, and I'm here to help you reconnect to your authentic self, one honest conversation at a time. Here we go. Hello to all my wonderful podcast listeners, and welcome to the Codependent Doctor Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Angela Downey, a family doctor and fellow codependent, here to help us untangle our patterns, heal our hearts, and reclaim our peace. For today's episode, we have a guest with us. Jonathan McLean was born in Germany, spent over 2 decades in Canada, and now calls Europe home again. After a near-death experience in the Himalayas changed the trajectory of his life, he shifted from a career rooted in discipline and structure to one that was centered around growth, mindset, and helping others live in alignment with their true selves. Today, he runs an online coaching practice that blends spirituality with practical tools for transformation. I'm so excited to have him on the show today because he embodies that rare combination of depth and simplicity. He can take complex ideas like human design and inner child healing and make them feel completely accessible. His approach is gentle but powerful, and I know that listeners who struggle with self-abandonment, guilt, or overgiving are going to walk away with a sense of clarity and calm. Welcome, Jonathan. I'm so glad that you're able to join us today. How are you?
I am doing very, very well. How are you?
Amazing. I'm doing good as well. Thank you. So
Awesome.
One of my traditions on the show is that we discuss one thing that we're grateful for, because when we stop to think about what we're grateful for, it helps our brains focus on what's working instead of what's missing or what's broken. So I'd like to ask you, is there anything that you're especially grateful for today?
Right now, as they say, the key to a man's heart is through his belly.
Yeah.
I am specifically grateful for my partner, my fiance, and her mother, who provided us the fantastic meal that I just got to eat. And so good. Happy belly.
Amazing. Well, I'm glad you've got a full belly, and I'm glad you're happy, because that'll make this recording go a little bit easier than if you were hangry. So I am grateful to them as well. For myself, I'm going to say that I'm grateful to be living in a place. So I'm kind of like central Canada, and we have 4 very distinct seasons. And I love that we get to change our clothing 4 times a year. We're allowed to do different activities. Some we do in the summer, some we do in the winter. Each season comes with its own challenges. Our winters can be a little bit brutal at times, but there are some interesting activities that we can do in the winter. So I'm really grateful to live in a place where I feel safe and happy and healthy and just so much variation. So I like that I'm kept on my feet in terms of weather, and yeah, it's a beautiful place to live. I'm in Winnipeg, Manitoba.
Yeah, I didn't know that about the seasons in Manitoba. I thought it was more like Calgary, which is where I'm familiar with, where it's summertime and then goes right into winter and there's no shoulder seasons at all.
Yeah, no, we definitely have some really good shoulder seasons. And Winnipeg has, Calgary has big temperature shifts. So even in the wintertime, you might have a really snowy, cold day, and the next day everything's melting. Whereas Winnipeg, it's a little bit more consistent. When it's cold, it stays cold. when it's hot,
Right.
it stays hot. So we don't have those Chinooks that you can get in Calgary. But Calgary is a beautiful city. I do appreciate their weather there as well. You're in Europe now. What are those seasons like?
Very, very similar to Winnipeg, with having the 4 distinct seasons. So right now it's November, so a lot of rain. Actually, it's been raining the whole day, but over the last 3 or 4 weeks, I've been able to just watch the leaves go from green to a little bit of a yellowy green, yellow, and then red, and start to fall. It's beautiful, beautiful out there.
Yeah, no, I love it. Fall is my favorite season by far. So, Jonathan, maybe we can start by asking you about your journey. What led you to become a coach focused on mindset, inner child work, and human design?
That is a very, very full question.
Yeah, it is.
There are so many different aspects of my life that have just slowly shown me that this is the direction that I need to go. I've had some interesting experiences growing up where my parents having their own challenges, having siblings, having challenges with that. Then as I started going through just regular old life and adulthood, there were all of these different experiences that I kept having that then led me to get an invitation from a bunch of different people to start working more with human design and coaching people, and specifically through sharing my own story and helping them, like just holding up a mirror to them and saying, hey, this is what I see. Do you see this about yourself as well? And just not being harsh about it, just gentle. So it's been a long journey, but the biggest ones would have been around falling down a mountain in Nepal, and then having a lot of intricate, detail-oriented, technical education through being an automotive service technician or a mechanic, and then just a whole bunch of failed relationships. That all led me to this place.
So you mentioned that near-death experience that you had in the Himalayas, and that shifted your path. Is that something you're okay to talk about?
Absolutely, yes. Yeah. I love sharing about this experience because it's very uncommon for people to actually ask, like, what happened. So I'm very open with all of that. So I was in the Himalayas. I was on day 10 of what was going to be about a 2.5, 3 week long trek, and went across a landslide area. The 9 people that I was with made it across successfully, just one by one, and I was the last to go across. And before I knew it, I was falling. I had no idea why I was falling, so don't know if I slipped or tripped or lost my balance or ground let loose. I don't know. Nobody knows. Got one memory where the voice in me was saying, just let go. And so my body went limp, smashed my head open on a big boulder on my way down, and continued tumbling and, just sliding for, total of about 30, 40 meters, so about 100 feet in North American terms. And then the 9 people that I was with saved my life.
That's amazing. 30, 40 meters doesn't sound like a whole lot, but I'm sure when you are falling, that feels like it's taking forever, and you're feeling every bump and knock along the way.
Thank goodness I don't remember any of the painful experiences in that moment. The only memory I have is when I was falling was that little voice that's saying, just let go.
Yeah.
And just to give people context, when you're driving along and you see an overpass, there is usually like a 5 meter or like a 15 feet kind of a clearance. That is the distance from where I started to fall and then to the ground, which would have been where the boulder was. So that initial fall was quite a bit.
Yeah, that's a lot. So how did that experience change the way that you see yourself and how you see the world around you?
Before this experience, I was very much in the people pleaser mode, very much in the giving, over-giving, toxic giving, as I like to refer to it. to the point where it was depleting my own cup. And I was not operating from a full cup within myself. Then I had to receive, and I had no choice. My right side was completely paralyzed. My left side, my left arm was paralyzed and still is not 100% yet. But I just had to lay there and let people feed me and bathe me and clothe me and make sure that I was in healthy condition. So that was the first shift. That was the major catalyst that started shifting the trajectory of where I was, the trajectory that I was on prior to that. And then it took another over 10 years to get to a point where I truly let go of the people-pleasing, the codependent tendencies that I have in myself.
You had mentioned that several failed relationships had preceded this event. Do you feel like codependency and that people-pleasing and overgiving made it difficult to have healthy relationships?
Well, I had relationships prior and after the fall. The issues with the codependent part of myself were there before and then continued after. Pretty sure it all started with my relationship with my own mother when I was a kid, just seeing that the way that I got love was by, people pleasing and doing what I could do to provide the that emotional safety for, an adult that is 25, 26 years older than I am. So that instilled a very baseline operating system that then I got to start to work through.
Your mother is who's 25 years older. This is the person who's supposed to be providing you with safety. And if there's some uncertainty in that relationship and you need to work hard to please that person so that you have that safety, that really creates a lot of insecurity in you that you're not able to do things on your own, and you need to make people happy in order for you to survive.
Exactly. Yeah. I've said on multiple occasions, other podcasts as well, that mom and dad are our original gods, right? They are the higher power that we get to look at as infants going, yeah, without you, I would be dead, right? My mother wasn't abusive. My mother wasn't any kind of like a bad person. I know that she was doing her absolute best. And the best coping mechanism that I found and survival strategy was when I saw an issue happening in our family, I would take care of it. And so that way the emotions wouldn't flare up in the first place.
And then you'd be able to feel safe.
Exactly.
Yeah. So you've done a lot of inner child work. What does that look like?
I love doing inner child work. One of my favorite things to do. Whenever I get triggered or, what's another word? I get either triggered or in some kind of way stimulated, take a moment and I check in, okay, who is hurting right now? Is it myself that it is currently at this age? Okay, yes. Okay, is there a younger version? Okay, yeah. How young can I go? All the way down to like 6 years old. Okay, that's pretty intense. Inner 6-year-old, what do you need right now? And then being able to spend time with that inner version of oneself, specifically myself, it really gives me an opportunity to go back and take care of all of the different things that the outside world was not able to take care of at that point. So that's the very basic way of how I do inner child work. Obviously, people are free to do their inner child work in whatever way. And that's why I love it, because I get to love on my inner versions of myself at any point in time. Nobody can take that away from me.
And doing that inner child work and going back to when you were younger, when you were first starting to develop some of these coping mechanisms that you had by loving that child that was struggling at that time and didn't have anybody to help him, by going back in time and doing that, does that help you with your future self in your healing?
Absolutely. Yes. The more I'm able to sit with my own inner wounds, my own children that are feeling scared or lonely or unloved or whatever the feeling is. When I heal that, I show up now as a better person, and then it continues to change that trajectory, just like I said, close to the beginning, where it was that initial catalyst, okay, tipped it a little bit over the edge, and now I just keep adding a little bit more intention into the direction that I want to go, which is happy, healed, healthy, and just a good person within my own standards.
This episode includes a paid partnership with BetterHelp. 3 years ago, I hit a wall. I was so burnt out that I walked away from my family practice. I thought I hated it and might never go back. But what I really needed was to face my people-pleasing, the chronic guilt, and the fear of conflict that had been weighing me down since childhood. It took a lot of therapy to work through those roots, but because of that, I'm able to come into medicine in a way that I actually enjoy again. That's why I believe that therapy is crucial. Not just when you're in a crisis, but for staying grounded and being the best version of yourself. I've been working with a credentialed therapist through BetterHelp, and it's been such a supportive part of my routine. After each session, I feel clearer and stronger. BetterHelp makes starting therapy easier. You fill out a short questionnaire and get matched with a therapist quickly. And if it doesn't feel like the right fit, you can switch anytime at no extra cost. With over 7,000 reviews and a 4.3 rating on Trustpilot, it's a platform that you can trust. Click the link in my show notes, betterhelp.com/Dr. Downey to get 10% off your first month. I remember going to therapy. I was struggling in my family practice. I'm a physician. So I was struggling in my family practice, and I couldn't figure out why I was just so drained at the end of the day. And a therapist asked me, "Are you a people pleaser?" And that was like the first moment that this light bulb went off and went, oh, like, yes, I am. And I feel like I'm needing to give more and more of myself. And it wasn't until I sat down, I'm like, where does this come from? Why am I a people pleaser? And my first memory was going back to the third grade when I failed the third grade. And when I had a lot of shame around that. And when I repeated the third grade, I thought no one's going to want to be my friend. No one wants to be friends with a person who failed. And I was just left alone, and maybe people were reaching out to me. I don't even know, but I think I was so convinced that no one would want to be my friend that I just sat in the corner every day feeling so much shame. So when the next year came around and I wanted to start having friends, I was trying to be everything to everyone. So I would give them what they wanted so that they would be my friend and they would like me. And I think that's the first time that I really started to recognize my people-pleasing tendencies. At that time, that was a coping mechanism because I wanted to have friends. And that just kind of continued. So later on, in almost every workplace situation or any relationship that I had, I always felt like I needed to give of myself because I didn't feel enough worth on my own. I didn't feel like I would be worthy on my own for people to like me. So it was always, what can I do for that person? I don't want to make them upset. There's this fear of conflict. And yeah, it's amazing how I can attribute that one memory. There was probably more things that came up, but that's that one time that I keep going back to, where those feelings that I had and that shame around failing at something and maybe feeling like it said something about me, like I wasn't a good enough person to be friends with. So when I do some inner child work, that is exactly where I go, because I think that's just the first moment that I was just super aware that something was not right, and that I had developed some of those coping mechanisms for. And those coping mechanisms just were not serving me anymore as an adult. And it just ended up draining all of my energy, because you can't please everybody, right? You can work super hard to make everybody else happy. You are not going to make everyone else happy. And you want them to like you, but in truth, they don't know who you are. You're not being your authentic person. So they're liking a version of yourself that you've created. So and it's exhausting. It's very tiring to be a people pleaser. So I think it's definitely worth looking into where some of these behaviors come from.
Absolutely. Are there any other tools that you used to help get out of that people pleasing and codependent behavior?
So I went through CODA, which is Codependence Anonymous, and I believe it was step 5, I think, where you're really needing to look at where some of these behaviors came from. And so it was a lot of, I don't think I knew the term for it at the time was inner child work, but it was very much looking into your past and trying to figure out what things happened to you, how that affected you long term. So that's probably, I don't think I knew I don't know if it was called inner child work. I don't think that's what they called it in CODA, but that's essentially what it was looking at all these things that happened to you when you were younger in the past and just try to look to see where some of these coping skills developed and how those coping skills are no longer serving you as adults.
That's awesome.
And it takes time, and it was hard. And I remember doing step 5, and it took me a couple of months to kind of go through it. And I don't think I've ever cried so much. And I think I was crying for that little girl who just wanted that acceptance and didn't always know where to find it or how to find it. And yeah, there's definitely a lot of tears involved, but just going back and recognizing that I had done the best that I could with the tools that I had at that time. And there's a lot of other things that happened when I was younger that hurt, but just I could be there for myself, for my younger self, when nobody else was able to be there for me. Anyways, thank you so much for letting me get all this off my chest. It's amazing.
Yeah, you're welcome.
You talk about sitting with each version of yourself. So can you explain that process and what that looks like?
Yeah. Thank you very much for bringing up CODA, because one of the ways that I learned to work with my inner children and with my inner family is through a 12-step program called ACA, Adult Children of Alcoholics / dysfunctional families. The last I heard, they were trying to go through a name change, so I'm not sure if it's the same name or anything, but it was ACA when I was a part of this 12-step group. So throughout, as I've been healing, I check in with these younger versions of myself, and specifically, I try to look at what can I remember for kind of the 0 to about 6, 7-year-old bracket. And then once I kind of find an average age of where the most amount of juice is and the most amount of energy, I look at that version and I just have a conversation with this inner version of myself. And then I do the same for about the ages, 8 through about 12, 13 years old, and then again for 14 to about 19. And of course, for adult ages as well, but mostly those younger versions, I really sit down and just quiet myself and go, okay, inner 4-year-old, how you doing? Where are you at? Do you need anything right now? And I show up just to witness and provide whatever they need. Most of the time, when I was first doing this healing, I would have them crawl up on my lap and they would just want to be held. So I would do that. And through the years, if there was so much emotion coming from that inner version of myself, I would imagine that it was not just me holding that inner version in their arms. It was actually this God, this amazing, all-powerful, all-encompassing, perfect parent. And there's, when you think of unconditional love, an unconditional love giving you a hug, just the tears just kept flowing. So that's the way that I first was sitting with those different versions. Obviously, a little bit different for every age bracket. But that was the initial sitting with those versions. And then as I grew older, and specifically the last year or so, it's more so just been a little bit of a checking in, just going, hey, everyone okay? Anybody need anything? And then usually it's like, yeah, we're good. And then they go off and keep playing in their different spaces. Yeah.
It's interesting how you said that you felt like you were being hugged by this perfect parent. And a lot of people don't know what that looks like. Because sometimes it's hard to see anything outside of the reality, right? Maybe a parent who neglects you, or so sometimes you don't feel love from your parent, and it's hard to imagine what it's like to be held by somebody who just loves you unconditionally, someone that you don't need to try and manage their emotions. You don't need to people please with them. You don't have to choke back whatever it is that you're feeling because you're needing to avoid conflict. Maybe you're walking on eggshells and trying to make sure that you don't trigger this person and set them off. So I think it was because when you were talking, I thought, oh, that would feel amazing to be hugged by this person. But I think a lot of people don't even know what that person looks like or what that would feel like to just be loved so unconditionally.
Yeah, and for that, I would recommend to just start with asking the younger versions of oneself, what do you need? And then giving that part of yourself that no questions asked. If they need a hug, give them a hug. If they need space, give them space. But the biggest thing is just to show up and be present for all of those different versions. And then I know from my experiences with hearing other people speak about their inner journeys that they've had sometimes months or years before their inner 6-year-old would even come within 10 feet of them. And then slowly, a little bit closer. And just that reassurance that I'm safe, I'm here, I'm continuously showing up for you, which is me.
So how can sitting with each version of yourself, how can it help somebody move from self-abandonment to self-acceptance?
From self-abandonment to self-acceptance. I actually did a webinar on this just yesterday.
Amazing. Okay. I'm glad I asked then.
So starting with that relationship and really finding out what that inner version of oneself needs, then putting that with the values that one has for oneself in one's own life, picking the top 5 values. And if you're not familiar with those values, I just urge you to do just some online tests and just check, do values tests multiple days in a row for a week or even 2 weeks, just so that you can get a good idea as to what the top 5 values are. And then once you know those, once you know what your inner children need, then going, okay, what is the outside world wanting from me? Is this good for my inner children? Does this pass through the test of my values? No? Okay. Hey, person, I'm so sorry. I'd love to be able to help you out in this kind of situation. I can see that you're really upset right now. At this point in time, I have to say no. Or just being a little bit gentler with oneself. I know no is a hard thing for some people to say. I'm just saying, can I get back to you in 24 hours? Can I get back to you in a week or whatever amount of time? Then that is that first little trigger and that first little step towards honoring oneself and not abandoning oneself in any kind of situation.
I love how you bring up finding what your values are and finding what those 5 values are. And I do remember reading a book from Brene Brown, and I think it was Dare to Lead. And she goes through these exercises where you try and find what your values are so that you can start living in better alignment with those values. So instead of trying to live for somebody else's values, you figure out what your values are and how to live with that. So I'm going to make sure that all these links are in the show notes for anybody that's wanting to find them. A lot of codependents live in constant mental overdrive. We are worrying about other people and how they're feeling. We might replay conversations in our head over and over, and we're trying to do everything right. So you talk about mindset work. So how can mindset work begin to quiet that noise?
I love this question. All of your questions, there's like a whole vast field of...
I know. I feel like every question could be an episode all to itself.
Yes. So for the sake of time, I'll try to keep it succinct. So mindset work and how that can shift like overthinking and just the codependent worrying and all of those different things. There are kind of two main ways that I work with mindset stuff. Is one, do I have control over this situation right now? And if one does, okay, writing down a list of like, okay, this is what I need to do, this is where I need to go, and keeping on going around everything that I have control over. If my business isn't going as well as I want to, what do I have control over? I can say this, and this. Okay. Everything else I let go of. I know. Letting go is just, it's just let go, right? So easy.
But if you can let go when you're falling down a mountain, it is possible to let go, but it's not easy.
Exactly. Simple, not easy. The trick that I found over a decade ago, I think over a decade ago now, was through A Course in Miracles, where I don't even remember if it's in the text or somewhere, where this idea came that if you're stuck in some kind of a situation, for me, I adapted it to thought loops. What is this person doing to, worrying. Oh, I said this thing. I should have said that, blah, blah, blah. Just you name it. Whenever there's a thought loop and I'm spiraling, I just go, God, I can't take this. Like, please, like, just here it is. Just take care of this for me, please. Yeah, you deal with it. It's above my pay grade, right? And then sometimes I've said this like 20 times in a row, like, God, like, please, it's your turn now. And then it came back. I'm like, oh, God, please. Right? So just going to that if there's no other way.
Coda often they talk about a higher power. So not just Coda, but like a lot of 12-step programs. It's all about surrendering yourself to a higher power, whether that be God or, somebody once told me that their higher power was like some mythical bear, that they just kind of imagined. But just being able to surrender the things that aren't working well and then just not having to worry about those anymore. Because in truth, there's only certain things that you can control. And there's always something that you control. So even if you're just controlling 1% of that situation, at least you've got that 1% that you control, and that's all you need to focus on. So just finding that little thing that you do have control over and let someone or something else handle the things that are outside of your control. And you don't have to worry about those things anymore. So in every situation, I think it's really important to find that one thing that you can control, because otherwise you just become this person that things happen to all the time, right? It keeps you in this victim mindset. But having something that you can control, if you're in an unsafe situation, what do I need to do to make my situation a little bit safer? If, I had a conversation earlier and now my mind is spinning out of control as I replay everything. And I'm wondering, what does this person think of me? I can't control what that person thinks. What I can control is, do I handle things a little bit more, a little bit differently next time? Do I give myself a really good night's sleep so I can wake up refreshed tomorrow and start over? Like, what are the things that I can control in this situation? And just leave everything else that you can't control. And there's a certain amount, there's freedom in leaving those things behind.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. You talk about human design as well. So that something I've never really heard of before, and it feels a little bit abstract. So what is human design?
Human design. And this is where we go a little bit more into the woo-woo, the more spiritual, alternative thought systems. I'm assuming you've heard of astrology.
Yes.
Okay, that's one of the systems that's brought into human design. So it's astrology, the chakra system, the ancient I Ching, the Kabbalist tree of life. So there's like the one little circle on the bottom and then a bunch of lines that are all connected in almost like a rectangular shape. So there's that. And then quantum physics. So all of these systems put together into one system called human design. From that, there's a whole bunch of information that one can get. The two biggest pieces of information that people can learn about and are really helpful for everybody's day-to-day lives are one's energetic strategy and authority. So there are 4 different ways that people are supposed to kind of show up in the world as, and then there's different decision-making tools that people have as to how to go forward. And a little bit abstract. So there are 5 types of energy types. Manifestors, so the people that are able to just punch holes in walls and say, universe, I want this to happen with this space. That's the one type, less than 10% of the population. Generators, manifesting generators, they're the worker bees. They're the people that can do 12-hour shifts for 2 weeks at a time, no problem, come back and still party. Then there are projectors. Those are the people that work best when they receive invitations to do things. And then reflectors, whenever they've got an option to do something, to wait 28 days until the right answer shows itself. And so that's the very basic idea as to what the different energy types are. And then when you know your energy type, you know the strategy. So manifestors to inform people what they're doing, generators and manifesting generators to respond to life, to hear what's going on in the world and go, that sounds interesting. My energy is naturally being drawn to that, and then do that thing. Projectors, like I said, waiting for the invitation, and reflectors waiting the 28 days. So strategy is number 1, and then authority, the decision-making way, I won't get into that, is available to them as well. Once I let go of the way that the world told me I should operate and stepped into the human design way that I should be operating, at first I was like, I don't like this. I want to keep doing what I was told to do. But then I just figured, you know what? I'll play with it. I'll try it out. I'll see how it works. If it works, great. If not, great. I'll just, put it away as a tried experiment. I tried it, and I tried it, and I played with it. And everybody that I've seen work with human design, especially their strategy and authority, life just goes smoother. There's not as much forcing that needs to happen. There is just a lot more ease that can happen. Just like saying before that, oh yeah, just let go. It's so simple, right? Not easy, especially for projectors and reflectors to have to wait for an invitation. That can be very, very, very tiresome. And then to also have to wait that time until the authority, the decision-making, tells you it's the right time to do something, that can be even more of a stretch. So it can be cumbersome to work with human design, and the results can be pretty phenomenal. So
how can aligning with your design support emotional healing from the past?
Human design doesn't really work with the past. That's more where I use inner child work and all of that so that I can heal what went on in the past. And then human design is more in terms of what's happening right now and what's going to happen in the future and which direction do I need to go and continue on which path. So taking the inner child work and melding it with the human design work just creates this beautiful snowball effect for the results down the road.
So I'm curious because you've lived in different parts of the world. You've lived in Germany, in Canada. Now you're back in Europe. So do you think culture plays a role in how we experience self-worth or boundaries or emotional expressions? Or is it the same anywhere you go in the world?
I think that culture has a huge impact on individuals. And even just look at Eastern Europeans versus Latin American people. There's a huge difference in expression, especially in emotional expressions, right? Mm-hmm. People from Eastern Europe will just stone-faced all the time, Well, not all the time, but out in public, just stone-faced, right? And then you go to, a place like Mexico or Cuba or, El Salvador, and usually there'll be, a little bit more of the emotional expression that people just feel comfortable with. Where there's theories upon theories as to where that all stemmed from. I personally think that location has a big thing to do with how people or how cultures evolve, and then also how the language evolves, and then as a result, how that impacts the individuals. Huge differences in terms of how the individuals express themselves.
Yeah. I also see differences in, people feeling the need to take care of their families, right? There's maybe an expectation that your in-laws come live with you when they're older, whereas other cultures, people go to personal care homes, or a lot of people come to Canada and they're sending like half of their paychecks back home to their family because there's this sense of responsibility that they need to take care of their family. But you don't see that in all cultures. So it is interesting how different cultures you're tied to your family in a certain way, and there's certain expectations that you need to do certain things for other people. So that can definitely be difficult. Jonathan, where can people find you?
ospreyguide.com. That's the main one. I'm also on Instagram, osprey.guide, Facebook, Osprey Guide, and then TikTok, Osprey Guide as well. And I've actually just launched a school community, so skool.com community, so people can find me on there as well. I'll make sure that all of the links are with you.
Okay. So you are offering my listeners 20% off any course that you offer for the first 20 people using the code Codependent20, and then 10% off any course that you offer for the next 100 people using Codependent10. That's amazing. What are some of these courses that you offer?
The big one that I've got right now is a relationship reparation course where there's a lot of diving that happens, where the first third is just asking questions, going into what's the history, what's my history, what have my experiences been, what have I been exposed to that I think is normal, and then in the middle section, healing that, like just going, okay, well, do I still want this? Is this going to be the best for me to move forward with? Maybe not. Okay, putting aside. And so meditating, healing, writing letters, and then in the third section, building the proper foundation to build future life with. So relationship with oneself, most important, and then of course with others as well. So that's the biggest one that I've got right now. I'm working on some other ones as well, seeing where the invitations come from, but that's the one major flagship course that I've got.
Yeah, relationship and building healthy relationships is a huge key component of all of our lives. So I think that's great for people to be able to have that. Jonathan, thank you so much for joining me today and for sharing your story with such openness and heart. I think a lot of people out there are going to feel a shift just listening to this, especially anybody who's spent years trying to fix or prove themselves. So your perspective on healing and alignment is such a gift. And I really, really, truly thank you for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me. The questions were phenomenal. I wish we'd be able to take more time to get into the nitty-gritty for each one of those. But
I know. I try and pack so much into these interviews, but really each one of those questions could be dissected into its own episode. So we should definitely have you as a guest again at some point. And I want to thank all my listeners for spending time with us today. If this episode resonated with you, feel free to share it with a friend or anyone who could use a little bit of encouragement. The more conversations that we spread to others, the more people that we can reach together. And if you'd like to stay connected, make sure to follow me. I'm most active on Facebook at The Codependent Doctor and on Instagram at Dear Angela Downey. I would love to hear your thoughts, so don't be shy about leaving a comment or reaching out. And I'm going to make sure that I put down all of Jonathan's information in the show notes so you can find him readily. You can have access to his course as well. I wish you all a great week as you learn to foster a better relationship with the most important person in your life, yourself. So I'm going to talk to you again soon for another episode of The Codependent Doctor. Take care for now. You've got this. Thanks for spending time with me today. I hope something in this episode resonated with you. If it did, hit follow, subscribe, or share it with someone who needs to hear it today. The Codependent Doctor is not medical advice and doesn't replace speaking to your healthcare provider. If you're in a crisis, please go to the nearest ER or call 911 or reach out to your local mental health helpline. I'll be back here next week with more support, stories, and strategies because we're healing together. My new book, Enough As I Am, is finally here and it's available on Amazon. This is a healing workbook for anyone navigating people-pleasing, guilt, or self-abandonment. It's filled with practical tools to help you build boundaries and reclaim your self-worth. And I've also created a companion 365-day journal called Enough As I Grow, with daily prompts to guide you through your healing journey one day at a time. Enough As I Am and Enough As I Grow are both available on Amazon. The links are in the show notes.